Hi, Ruby. Now, I would be remiss if, as part of my Steam Deck library of videos that I'm creating, I didn't talk about emulation. But I will admit that when I first got my Steam Deck, I was kind of a bit like, well, I'm buying a Steam Deck. I'm spending all of this money, sort of north of £400, on this beautiful machine to play modern games. And in particular, with me, it tends to be 3D, third person or first person shooters, adventure games, that sort of thing. And the idea of spending all this money to then play old games, kind of, I was like, well, you know, why would you bother? What's the interest in that? Because I must admit, because of my age, because I'm sort of north of 50 years old, yeah, it's hard to believe, I know. I grew up playing really, should I call them crap? But you know, when you were playing games on things like the knockoff equivalent of an Atari, I think it was called a Radio Fin we had, or an Apple II clone, all those sorts of games, and then even into things like, you know, the SNES. What we really wanted back then was 3D games. Okay, and so now sometimes I think when I see retro games, I'm like, well, why? When you have games like Fallout 4 and DayZ, why would you want to go back? But so I thought I'd dive in, and I used Emudeck. And this video isn't going to be a tutorial about how to install all this stuff and how to do it. I'll put a link in the description below this video to some sites that will get you started. But I tell you what, I've been pretty impressed. One of the really important things to remember, though, when you're doing this, is that it becomes very addictive, not in terms of playing the games, but in terms of thinking about what games you enjoyed when you were a kid, you know, playing on the Super Nintendo, for example, and also thinking about the games that you never got a chance to buy because they were too expensive. That you thought, oh, I wouldn't mind, you know, downloading that. And then all the other systems as well that you didn't have. And what becomes addictive is finding those ROMs and downloading those ROMs. And then you tend to play them for a little bit and go, well, that was nice. But, you know, there's definitely some... So what I thought we'd do is just how easy it is to get into this. And I thought we'd maybe pick one or two games from each system that I've got set up here. And so you can just sort of see. So what we've got, Super Nintendo. So I guess it would have to be Super Mario World. Should it be? Yeah, let's go into Super Mario World. And then you can see how amazing. I'll tell you one thing that surprised me, though, is although the load times must be faster than when... In fact, let's turn down the volume so we can get hit for any copyright strikes. The load times must be faster than originally, I guess. The other thing is manuals. Woo. Here we go. So, I mean, this plays lovely. And it looks great. I mean, the beauty with the Steam Deck screen, obviously, is that it has it's fantastically vibrant. And remember, we were originally playing this on, you know, TVs, weren't we? CRT TVs. What did they run at? 50 hertz, wasn't it? They would run at. Looks fantastic. Plays great. And the SNES is a really good one. In fact, what you tend to find is these older games, up to about the GameCube, are really good because the ROMs are easy to install. You don't really have to do anything flashy to install the ROMs. So that was Super Mario World, isn't it? What else should we look at? Or a lot of the ones I think probably that I would recommend as well are the ones that are very arcadey. You know, that you can just pick up and you can play for 10 minutes and have a good time, rather than maybe the RPGs. But saying that, it all depends on, you know, what you like, doesn't it? You may well have to find and download the manuals to know the controls. But UN Squadron was always a particular favourite of mine. I'm sure there's lots of different things I could do to change, you know, the edges and all this sort of stuff. So maybe it would look a bit different. You're trying to remember. Sometimes, right, here we go. Game start. Which button? That one? That one? That one. Move the volume up a little bit. I used to love UN Squadron. It was great. I don't think I ever finished it. I haven't got into installing cheats or anything like that. Yes, please. Have that weapon, please. And here it goes. Because we did have a local arcade. I always have fond memories of going to the local arcade. And one of the beauties with like the SNES was that some games looked really good. I think this is one that, excuse me, looks very nice indeed. I guess it's come out of that. So that's Super Nintendo. Dreamcast. Wow. So I wanted to install the Dreamcast games really for for Daytona was the one. So we'll have a look at Daytona, but of course Crazy Taxi, absolutely fantastic game. And what's interesting as well is sometimes going back and playing these games on the system that they originally came out on, rather than like a HD remaster. And some games as well just aren't available. You know, there's no easy way to play, for example, the original Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. Or even the Resident Evil 0, or the original Resident Evil game. There's no easy way to do that, you know, unless you buy the original hardware. You know, who wants to do that? And even things like Daytona USA. This has the Xbox 360 version, which I guess you could play on. Pressing the wrong buttons here. Start. Which I guess the Xbox 360 version of this, you know, you can't buy it anymore. It's been withdrawn. And I think the only way you can play this is to go into one of the other Sega games, one of the Like a Dragon games. Here we go. I wonder if I'm pressing the right button. Do you remember this one? I love playing this in the arcade. I was rubbish at it though. Again, this is the Dreamcast version. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. So it's a nice arcade conversion, but the problem with the arcade games I found, the MAME ones, is that sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to find out which version of MAME they work with. Ooh, bit sensitive. That's running lovely, isn't it? Looks fantastic. So that's Dreamcast, PlayStation, Dino Crisis, Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill. Again, and then let's have a look at PlayStation 2, shall we? What should we go into? So, for example, Gran Turismo. So, Gran Turismo 3 was, and still probably is, one of my favourite driving games. I think other people will probably disagree. I'm not really heavily into driving games, but I think the beauty with Gran Turismo 3 is it was simple enough for someone like me to enjoy, but complex enough in terms of the customization you could do for probably people who are into more realistic things to really enjoy as well. And I like the fact that it doesn't have things like the guide that shows you how to take the corners. I think all it does is just shows you the gear that you should be in. I could be wrong. Can we play on this one? Here we go. I guess the load times must be much faster or something because it's loading in off the SSD. Let's just start. Let me just show you a little bit of this. I've got my little red. I'm sure all those years ago on the PlayStation 2, I used to have a red Mazda like this that I gradually souped up. And I think we can change the view. Although, of course, you know, why wouldn't you use... In fact, can we pause it? Turn the brightness up a bit. It's funny having the accelerate on the A button. How many hours did I spend going around this? Yeah, see at the bottom it kind of tells you which gear you should be in for the corner, but doesn't give you a guide. Again, it's running at 50 frames a second, but I think that it's running at 50 hertz because, again, it would have designed to be run on a European TV, which run at 50 hertz. I'm sure there's ways that you can change things to Whoa! I need a bit more practice. This still looks good. And again, the beauty with the Steam Deck is because it's got this small but incredibly vibrant screen. And these really great controls. And a lot of these old games as well, they had great soundtracks, didn't they? Yeah, I won't turn this up because I don't want to get a copyright strike. So that looks fantastic, doesn't it? Let's come out. So what else have we got? The arcade, again, they can be tricky to set up because you've got to figure out which version of MAME. Nintendo 64. What should we look at? I guess it's got to be Super Mario 64. Should we jump into this one? I haven't checked. But some of these games, I haven't checked to see if they actually work. Yeah, I've just downloaded the ROMs. Mario. There we go. Sometimes the problem with the... Oh, what am I doing? This thing's missing there, isn't there? I think sometimes as well that the problem with like the N64 is the weird control it used to have. And that's what you've got to watch out for. So some of the best games, like the GameCube, which we'll have a look in a minute. So, yeah, it's not coming up with... there should be some writing on this, I think, saying I've been kidnapped. Or is she being invited somewhere? I can't remember the story for this. This was a long time ago. Were they called Lakutu, those things? Hey! Because the N64 controller just had one joystick, didn't it? Yeah, see, none of the writing's coming up. That's a bit of a bummer. Maybe I'll have to find a different... Oh, wow. It looks great. Oh. Something's happened. I can't read it. I don't know. All right, you've got to have the stars, haven't you, to go through certain doors, haven't you, I think? Okay, well, you get the idea. You've seen gameplay, haven't you, from Mario 64 before. GameCube. Now, this may well be the sweet spot for emulated games. For the beginner, anyway, because they're really easy to install. So what should we go? So what I've got here, for example, is I've downloaded the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, and probably the Code Veronica one I'll probably get for the GameCube, because sometimes it's worth doing a little bit of research, because although, for example, the Resident Evil 2 and 3 came out first on the PlayStation 2, some people say the best version is the GameCube version. So that's what we've kind of gone for. But I guess probably Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Should we have a look at that one? And the other beauty, obviously, with lots of these games is they're really small. You're not taking up gigabytes and gigabytes of data. Where when you start moving into your PlayStation 3 and your Xbox games, your 360 games, they really do. They can be very big. And again, I think a lot of it is when we started to move into 3D graphics. In fact, we've got to turn the sound out. There's lots of music in this one. Sometimes the old sprite-based graphics look the best. Okay, I used to love this game. Level is locked. So we can only play the Foundry. Oh well. Now I'm probably going to fall over a lot in this. But I think this still stands up today. Look, watching it. Yeah, I've got no idea how to do any of this. Whoa! Fell over straight away. A grind. Good. Oh, I keep landing sideways. Oh no! Pop shove it. Whatever that is. Oh, I definitely will practice, don't I? I'm trying to remember which was the one to do the you could do like a handstand, can't you? And I think on this one you can you can link things together with manuals, can't you? I think, was that the idea you could do on this? Or it might have been the next one that you could do that. So you could keep tricking for ages. Front side 50-50. Hey, so how cool is that? And what have we got? Then we're back to Super Nintendo. So there you go. You can see how easy it is to run this. I'm just a beginner when it comes to emulation. As I say, I won't be doing really any tutorials about this sort of stuff, but because it's not really what my channel's all about. But it's a nice addition, and I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't be going back to, especially games like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, the original versions. Maybe I'll add some cheats to give me sort of infinite endurance, infinite ammo, and invulnerability, and to play those games. Because although the graphics can be a bit crap, the atmosphere is often, really fantastic, and it's good to go back and look at the history of these games. So anyway, that's enough from me. Emulation on the Steam Deck, it's really good. There's lots of community support out there. ROMs are relatively easy to get hold of, and I think, with this beautiful screen and these fantastic controls, it really is a pretty cool package. Anyway, that's enough from me. What do you think? Put your questions and comments down below, and I will, of course, see you again soon.